What's going on YouTube? For my second video, I figured I'll show y'all my profile pic on YouTube and my little project truck here. It's a 1983 Dodge D-150. I've lowered it. Also did an engine swap. Had a 318 two-barrel originally. I swapped it to a, I think it was out of like a 98 Dodge Ram 1500. It's a 360 Magnum or a 5.9 Magnum. I'll just take you around. She's a little rough, but that's all right. I don't want something super nice. Only rust really is right here. It's pretty bad, but hey, what do you do? Got the seat in the back there, so sit back there and drink beer, you know, whatever. I'm running 15 by 10s with 295 50-15 rubbers on it. And let me tell you, to make these things fit was a pain. I had to roll these fenders out and the box out in order to make these things fit. Wish I would have went with a smaller tire, but I'm stubborn. I wanted to run a 295 50. I'll show you all the engine bay. So there's that 5.9 Magnum. Now these Magnums are a pretty popular swap for your, you know, 70s and 80s old Dodges because these engines are plentiful. They come out of, you can get them at a junkyard for about $500 a pop. Not too bad. Usually they're in pretty good shape still. They were fuel injected from the factory. So that also helps increase the engine life on them being fuel injected, because with the carburetor, you start washing the cylinder walls down, and then you start taking away the crosshatch. But with the fuel injection, it gives the fuel more evenly. And a lot of times, I think this motor had like 160,000 on it, and everything looked perfect on it when I took it apart. So that's also what I'm going to run in the Challenger over there. You can see the motor there. I got it tore apart. You'll see that in the next video. On these, you do not have to run this serpentine setup. So I'm not doing that on the Challenger. I'm running the V-belt style. But on this one, I wanted to just try it out and see if I could do it. And you can. So basically, I just got the junkyard to give me the alternator, this AC pump, and I kept the power steering pump off of this motor, and really it all went together pretty well. The one issue I ran into is I wanted to keep this AC pump because eventually I want to put AC back on this truck. One issue I ran into with this Edelbrock intake, I don't know if you can see in there, right there at that, right in here. That's where antifreeze goes through there. And in order to clear this AC pump, I had to space it out with these washers. I mean, no big deal. I still have plenty of free range motion in the tensioner here. I just made the belt a little tighter, but really not that big of a deal. Sorry if you guys hear the rain. It's raining pretty hard down here, and got a metal roof on the building. So another thing with these Magnums, if you see here, your intake bolts, they're straight up and down. On the LA 318, 360, 340s, they have their bolts, intake bolts are ran in at like a 45-degree angle. So that's one thing. If you need to get an intake for these, really Edelbrock is just about the only intake you can get, unfortunately, unless you want to cheap out and go with the crosswinds, I think they're called. They're like $200 less, but I've heard bad reviews on them, and I'd rather just spend the extra money and have a good intake. I went with a 650 double pump around here, just because it's just a stock bare bones 5.9, so it runs pretty good. Running some hooker headers, just 1 5/8 primary, 2.5 inch collector, just cheap. Did this motor on the cheap. Oh, another thing. With these Magnums, they did not come from the factory. You know, usually down here you see back behind this bracket here, on like the LAs, you'd see your fuel pump down in here off the timing cover. These Magnums were fuel injected, so they didn't have fuel pumps. They had fuel pumps in the tank, and not on the block there. So if you do convert over to the serpentine belt setup off of LA, you'll have to run a fuel pump, which is not a big deal. I ran mine with some 3/8 line. It kind of looks shitty, but oh well, it works. I got a Holley blue pump, which is a little bit too much for this motor, but oh well. So yeah, I also did a swap of the rear end. I had a 8 1/4 with super high gears, and it just did not want to get out of its own way. So I went and picked up a Ford 8.8 rear end out of the junkyard for like $175. I mean, this swap was a no-brainer. It's also 4-linked, so it rides super nice. You got disc brakes. It's got a 373 gears with a limited slip. So really, you can't go wrong with that. You can find them out of the Ford Explorers all day long. For cheap, too. For cheap. And they're really not that hard to convert over. Oh, I also forgot to mention that these Magnums come from the factory with a hydraulic roller cam. And therefore, they're better than the flat tappets. You can easily sing these up to $6,000, and they won't have a problem. I wouldn't do it repetitively because you know might run into some valve train issues. Another thing to note is these. If you're going to run the serpentine belt setup, these water pumps. These are a reverse flow versus the LA setup. If you run a serpentine belt setup on them. That's just one thing to keep in mind when you're doing the swap. But also Mancini Racing, they make these throttle brackets that are straight up and down for your high-rise intakes. Also, I'm running one of these low-car kick-down cables, and guys, it is way better than your standard metal arm bracket deal that they come from the factory. You can get so much more adjustment out of them. It just brings life back into the transmissions. I almost forgot to start this thing up for y'all. Let y'all hear what it sounds like. I'm running two MagnaFlow 4-inch round body, 2.5-inch mufflers on it. They're pretty quiet, honestly. I thought they were gonna be a lot louder, being the MagnaFlows have a straight through muffler design. But really impressed with how they sound. That's that fuel pump you're hearing. It's kind of loud. I need to run a return line, run it as a return system instead of a returnless. Hopefully quiet it down and help save the life of the pump. Don't mind all the oil spots. If it's leaking oil, it means it's got oil, right? Well, I think that's where we're gonna end the video. Try and get some work done on the Challenger over there. Look at that sweet SS Chevelle, the 454 big block. I think it's pretty sweet. Make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment down what you think of the videos and what I can improve on. Really appreciate y'all's feedback, and have a nice day.